I'm David Scandura.
I'm Justice Burkett.
And today we're here to find out, is Marnie the greatest movie ever made?
You don't love me. I'm just something you've caught. You think I'm some kind of animal you've trapped.
Welcome to the greatest movie ever made, the show where I don't know why I'm saying it like that, the show where we watch a movie and tell you if it's the greatest movie ever made.
Yes.
A movie that is so thoroughly entertaining and compelling that while you're watching it, it's the only thing that matters in the world. You know, Justice, that sounds remarkably similar to the voice of one Sean Connery.
One Sean Connery. You're the man now, dog.
A man who I've become intimately familiar with since I've apparently been under his thrall.
He did at the end of the last episode possess your corporeal form from hell. How was hell? You were there for, 5 minutes or so.
You know, there was a lot of flames and screaming.
Oh, yeah.
And
as advertised.
agony.
Yeah.
But I do have to say, the devil is rather a gentle lover.
Oh, okay. Wasn't expecting that. Yeah.
No, he was fucking my ass.
Yeah. Did he ask for consent first? Because if he did, he has one advantage over a character in this movie.
Yeah, he did. He was
Good.
he was really cool about it.
Good. I'm glad that
He's
I'm glad that at least the devil understands consent. Alfred Hitchcock, maybe not. The devil though, he gets it.
Yes. This is the Shummer of Sean.
The Shummer of Sean.
And according to Sean Connery's, the ghost of Sean Connery's wishes, we're going to be covering 4 movies starring him.
Yes.
And our first one is Alfred Hitchcock's Marnie, our first Hitchcock movie.
Yes, Hitch has arrived on the greatest movie ever made. And an interesting first appearance. Well, a lot of the time when we cover a big director for the first time, it's like not their biggest or most well-regarded film. And we're continuing that trend here. Marnie definitely well regarded. People talk about Marnie, but we're not talking about like Psycho or Vertigo or North by Northwest.
This one released to like mixed reception.
Yeah.
And I think this era of his career, he has only 4 more films that he made.
Late era Hitch.
Yeah, I think post Psycho and The Birds is sort of seen as like a bit of a decline for him before he died. But this one has definitely gained like appreciation over the years. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Definitely a movie that I understand why 60 years after its release it is still being talked about, because there's a lot to unpack here.
Yes, a lot to unpack. I don't know that I will be fully equipped to do that first viewing, because I'm having a tough time.
Right. Which we'll talk about in a second. Before we get into it, I just do want to say, I don't think either of us are the right people to be talking about Marnie necessarily. So, first of all, we apologize for everything. Most of all, for being men. And second of all, just, know that we warned you at the top of this episode. So when we are inevitably canceled for any takes that we have on Marnie, we warned you, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. You said you were having a rough time, and then
That's fine.
then I derailed. How are you, David? Other than having a rough time, that's the question.
I mean,
I know how you are. We've been talking.
Having a rough time.
Yeah,
that's sort of how I am. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I'm tired.
Yeah,
fucking tired as shit.
Yeah,
and haven't really had a moment to breathe. Even yesterday was like, I was running around doing errands, and then I spent the evening with my family, and I thought it was going to be just like, it was my mom's birthday.
Yeah.
So I thought it was going to be just like a pretty casual mom's birthday thing. But then I was like, no, we have to discuss a family emergency that is currently unfolding and what we are going to do about it.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's sort of happening all at once.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I thought I was like, the problem is I think, as much as I hate fucking work and I hate capitalism, I am still my brain has still been rotted by capitalism to respond to things like, no, I can power through this.
Right.
We've
all been indoctrinated.
This isn't important. This family stuff isn't important.
Yes.
I can take care of work and stuff first and then do that. And no, it was like, no, you have to take care of this now.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have to put work above your family.
And you shouldn't feel bad for being there for your family at the expense of work. Nobody should you should not be made to feel bad about that, either externally by bosses or whatever, or internally by your own fucking capitalist conditioning,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got that to deal with, so I'm going to be taking care of that.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
And thank you. And I don't have anything to recommend other than give someone you love a hug.
Yeah.
That's my media for the week. Spread the joy of human connection and existence.
Yeah.
And grow closer to your fellow human beings.
Yeah. Word.
How are you?
I'm okay. I'm doing fine. I am happy that one of the shows that we were working on has closed, so that I have a little bit more free time back, theoretically. I haven't felt the free time yet, but allegedly it's gonna be there at the end of this week. So yeah, I'm doing okay. I am trying to think if I have any media to recommend. While I'm trying to jog my memory on that, I did also just want to tell you, because I thought it was funny, that, the Virgin Chad meme. Today I saw a guy who looked exactly like the Virgin in the Virgin Chad meme. He was dressed the same, and he was walking, listening to headphones, and he had the exact same haircut and just looked so much like the dude from that meme that it kind of put a smile on my face, because I was like, that guy looks like that funny cartoon. You know what I'm saying?
That's cool.
It's the little things, dog.
Sure. Just take what you can get.
That's right. Yeah.
I was listening to really, really sad music today.
Yeah.
And then what auto played next was Garbage's the theme song to The World Is Not Enough by the band Garbage. their James Bond theme.
Yeah.
And it was such a vibe shift, and I also fucking love that song that I was just like, oh fuck yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
Sad mood, go away.
That is right. I will give I've been listening to my hardcore punk playlist a lot this week, and I will give a quick media rec shout out just to the band Ankle Biter. I don't think they have any recent releases or whatever, but I think their last thing that they released came out last year. But good band, good hardcore punk band, and I've never shouted them out on the air before, and I've been listening to a lot of Ankle Biter this week, so I'll throw that one out there.
Cool.
Yeah, so we have to talk about, we have the privilege of talking about Alfred Hitchcock's fucking psychosexual.
He classified it as a suspenseful sex mystery.
Sure. Yes. I mean, there is a mystery, there is suspense, and there's sex. Whether anyone likes it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marnie. I don't know. We should probably talk about our just general feelings on Hitchcock. And because it's your Connery month, I do kind of want to unpack some of your history with and relationship to Sean Connery, other than of course him possessing your body from hell, which is a recent development.
Yeah, it's not my Connery month. It's Sean's. Sean's Connery month.
Yes, but I assume he chose your mortal form as a vessel because you had some kind of pre-established interest in his career.
I don't know. Who knows what goes on in that man's brain except for, for trying to find justifications for slapping women.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it was funny.
Who knows what evil carnal thoughts exist behind that balding crown?
It is funny.
He was balding in the 60s.
Darkly funny. Yes, he was. It is darkly funny in this movie when he is talking to Marnie and he's like, it's like right after the jig is up with her whole stealing thing, and he's like, I'm fighting down the very strong urge to beat the hell out of you. And I'm like, yeah, I fucking bet you are. I bet you are. I bet you, the character, but I also bet you, Sean Connery, the actor, are constantly fighting the urge to hit women. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like he didn't have to like do a lot of work to find the character here.
It's like Dr. Strangelove, where his hand is sort of disembodied. He's no, don't do it.
Or like,
shit.
Yeah, or like when Marnie's like reaching for the money at the end of the movie and then she like can't grab it. Like that's Sean Connery trying to fight his urge to just slap a woman in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like you know, he didn't really have to like go deep into character for this one. Feels like he kind of just showed up and was like, I get this guy entirely. Mark Rutland, I feel like I know the ins and outs of this guy. You're telling me that he objectifies a woman and then sexually blackmails her? Right up my alley. Sounds like a good guy.
Yeah. So Sean Connery, I mean, James Bond is my relationship with Connery. But he's also just a great actor that shows up in things and has a interesting career beyond just James Bond, including action movies like Hunt for Red October and The Rock, but also stuff like Highlander.
Yes.
In
which he plays a Spaniard. To be clear, that's one of my favorite things in Highlander is it's like, oh yes, the movie's called Highlander, right? There is a connection in the film to Scotland, right? And then Sean Connery shows up and you're like, clearly this man will be Scottish. And he's like, I'm from Barcelona.
The actual Scottish guy is played by Christopher Lambert,
who has the least scrutable accent of any film star.
Yeah.
AKA Belgian. Anyway, we'll save it for our Highlander episode.
But you know, he's I love him in The Untouchables. Have you seen the John McTiernan movie Medicine Man?
I have not.
That's a wild, strange little anomaly in McTiernan's filmography, but
I listened to
Sean Connery literally cures cancer in that movie.
I listened to the Blank Check episode on it. He cures cancer in that movie by like being misogynistic, right?
Yeah,
like he torments a woman and that leads to the cure for cancer.
Yeah, he's basically a giant asshole to Lorraine Bracco.
Yes.
And then cures cancer in the Amazon rainforest, and then the rainforest burns down, so they lose the cure.
Yeah.
A movie that I've seen, surprisingly, more than once.
Sounds like a very normal thing from the mind of John McTiernan. I don't know if it's from his mind. I don't know if he wrote the story.
I don't know.
He directed it.
But I've always been familiar with Sean Connery since I was a kid, and loved a lot of his movies and loved him as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
This is one that I haven't seen. Actually, all 4 movies that we're doing this month are movies that I haven't seen.
Yes.
I guess the ghost of Sean somehow had access to my film history.
He said he had access to all your thoughts and memories. He mentioned something about pissing yourself in the 4th grade. Oh, shitting yourself.
No, I was shitting. I shat myself.
Yes,
yeah,
shitting yourself. Yeah.
I didn't. I can't believe he revealed that publicly to the world. I've been hiding that for years.
Well, it's on the record now. It came out in last week's episode.
As I recall, it was a pretty big shit too. There was like a lot in there.
And he said you just decided to shit your pants.
Yeah, I was on the.
Like you weren't like sick. You didn't have like food poisoning.
No. I was. I'm glad that we're spending our limited time on this sort of talking about this. No, I was just at the back end of the field at recess. So it was like there was the playground, like the playground equipment. So like the jungle gym and the swings and shit. And then there was a big open field where they would play, you could play baseball or kickball or whatever. And at the back of the field was normally where like the ladybugs were.
Oh, okay.
And so for a while, like we were walking to the back of the field to collect ladybugs and keep them in the milk cartons from lunch and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was back there for some reason or another, and it was like a long walk back to the bathrooms. And I had to shit, and for whatever reason, I just decided to shit my pants.
You were like, I could walk to that toilet, or I could make my own toilet right now in my fucking pants.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess when you're,
I think it may have been 3rd grade.
yeah, when you're that young still, it's like you are like potty training isn't too long in the rear view, and so I feel like there might just be a thing where it's like this worked a few years ago. I could just shit my pants a few years ago, and it would be taken care of.
Yeah.
Like, let's just see if this. No, okay, we're past that. All right.
It's like when you're drunk sometimes, and you're like, I'm drunk enough that I could get away with, pissing on this car.
Oh yeah.
And,
I don't even need to be drunk for that. Sometimes if I got to piss bad enough, I will water a tire sober.
You gotta go. Either in your pants or on a car somewhere.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We're not here to talk about piss and shit.
We're here to talk about sexual assault and manipulative relationships.
Women's autonomy in the 60s or lack thereof.
And I've always loved Alfred Hitchcock. I took a class on Hitchcock in college, and that gave me access to a bunch of his movies that I hadn't seen before. And some of the smaller ones, as well as like, stuff like Rear Window and North by Northwest and Vertigo and shit like that. And we've been watching some Hitchcock together.
We have,
I think, because you guys have a Hitchcock box set.
We do.
But this was one that I hadn't seen, and I'm glad that the Ghost of Sean decided to pick it.
Yeah. So
I get to check another Hitchcock off the list.
Hell yeah.
What about your experiences with Hollywood's 2 premier misogynists?
Sean Connery, I don't have tons of experience with. I've seen Highlander. I've seen him as James Bond in a couple of his Bond movies. I don't remember how many he made, like how many Connery Bonds there are, but I've probably seen like 2.
Okay.
Because I've seen Goldfinger. That's him. Yeah. And then Goldfinger. Yeah. Sorry, there's Goldfinger and there's GoldenEye, but Goldfinger is him.
Goldfinger's him.
And that's the one where the lady gets painted gold.
Yes.
Yes. I've seen that one. And then I've seen, I think, like one of the other ones.
Okay.
And obviously seen Highlander, seen like a couple more Connerys here and there, but like he's never been like a big one for me. Like he's never been an actor where I'm like, where I've had like a phase where I'm watching lots of Sean Connery movies until now. Thanks to his Spirit from Hell. But Hitchcock, on the other hand, I have a pretty strong relationship with his films. I watched some Hitchcock growing up. Like my parents had a lot of Hitchcock movies, and so like really, really early, I was seeing stuff like Rear Window and North by Northwest, and mostly some of his like more like political thrillers or like action thrillers,
right?
And less his more like horror thriller stuff, which I got into a little later. I think I did see Psycho, though, when I was pretty young. I probably saw Psycho at like 12 or 13, I think. But stuff that goes a little bit like darker or weirder, like Vertigo, I like didn't see until like a little bit later, probably college. And I also watched some of his stuff in a film class that we took together. I didn't take the Hitchcock one. You said you had a Hitchcock class.
Yeah.
Yes, I didn't take the Hitchcock one. Sometimes I feel like I false memory hole that I did take the Hitchcock one.
No, the Hitchcock one was an honors program class.
Yeah. I did not take that.
Yeah.
But I did take the film class that we were in. We also watched, I think, 1 or 2 in that class.
Did we?
Maybe not. Maybe I'm misremembering. But regardless, I did sort of pick up on more of his stuff in college.
Yeah.
And then like you mentioned, High Priestess Pod and I own a box set of his films, and we've been making our way through some of the ones we haven't seen and rewatching a lot of the ones we have. And like I love Alfred Hitchcock's movies. I am a really big Hitchcock fan. Rope is one of my favorite films ever made. Like Rope probably makes it into my top 10, and it's my favorite Hitchcock. But a lot of his movies I have a very strong connection to. Like rewatching Vertigo a couple times over the last couple of years, I'm like, that movie is basically perfect. I feel that way about a lot of his films, like Psycho 2, which I already mentioned. And there's a bunch from my childhood that I would like to revisit, like Strangers on a Train. I haven't watched in a long, long time, but I remember liking that one when my parents showed it to me. So yeah, like I love a lot of his stuff. He's one of my favorite filmmakers in terms of the movies themselves. Seems like he was sort of an asshole.
Yes, his legacy as a human being is complicated to say the very least.
Yeah, but fan of the movies that he made.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of his complicated legacy, I think that brings us to Marnie, which is based on a book.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like Hitchcock sort of like read the book and wanted to make the movie and hired writers, and some of the writers were like, hey, there's like some problematic stuff here. And he was like, what problematic stuff? I don't know what you're talking about. It's perfectly fine for a man to rape his wife.
Yeah, it seemed like
his God-given right as a husband.
It seemed like he was really into the rape scene.
Yeah.
He was really adamant about keeping the rape scene in.
Yeah.
And like questions were raised and concerns were raised, and he was like, no, we'll do it and it'll be fine.
Yes. It's going to be fine. They're going to love Sean Connery even after he commits sexual assault.
It's funny because I was reading one of the reviews at the time, and they said, like, this movie would be better with Cary Grant and Grace Kelly. And it sounds like at least Grace Kelly was up for Tippi Hedren's role.
Yes, apparently Hitchcock wanted to make this movie initially with Grace Kelly, and, like, sort of initiated the project around that idea.
Yeah.
With her as Marnie. Yeah.
But she was Princess of Monaco at the time, and they were like,
"She's a little busy."
Don't think it would be a good image to have the Princess of Monaco being raped on camera,
or being a thief and
yeah,
a career criminal.
But he had been developing this.
To be fair, she is raped off camera.
Yes,
which is an important detail.
Yeah, were not.
That makes this movie watchable.
Yeah, we were not showing sexual assault explicitly in the 60s.
Well, not in this type of movie.
Not in this movie, no. But he was developing this before The Birds. So when The Birds came about, and he's like, "Ooh, I have acquired a new blonde actress that I can obsess over."
Yeah.
And and harass and throw birds at.
Yes, and threaten to ruin the career of if she doesn't do what I want. Yeah.
Yeah. So it went to Tippi Hedren.
Yeah.
And then Sean Connery came on board because he was locked into a production deal with Eon Productions to do Bond.
Mm-hmm.
But so he was like he wasn't able to do a lot of projects, but it did come up that he wanted to work with Hitchcock.
Yeah.
So at that point, he's one of the biggest stars in the world and gets the opportunity to work with Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Probably
probably one of the only times in history that a Scotsman has been desperate for a Englishman to tell him what to do.
Probably.
The Scots sort of like, from my limited experience, I have been to Scotland once, and in the time there absorbed this detail about the Scottish people's relationship with Sean Connery. They sort of have disowned him. It seems like they sort of view him. Yeah, they sort of view him as like, yeah, he's like from here, but he's not really Scottish.
Well, he's been knighted and everything.
Yeah.
And like in the Bond movies, he's definitely trying to portray a British man.
Yeah, it's sort of like, it seems like the Scottish people are kind of like, yeah, he like doesn't really go here,
And
like
he played a Spaniard that one time in Highlander.
Immaculately. Perfect Spanish accent. I was dancing with the senoritas back in Madrid. Yeah. I did see a thing in like a Scottish newspaper when I was there. This was like years and years and years ago, but where it was like a poll among like the readers of like Stirling or wherever we were, and it was like worst Scottish accent, and it was like some of the entrants were like Mel Gibson in Braveheart, and shit, and the voted number one worst Scottish accent was Sean Connery, which I thought was very funny because his accent doesn't sound like other Scottish people. He's kind of is just doing his own thing. It's sort of a Sean Connery accent.
Yes, one could say that.
And notably, in 1964, I think he was still working on it because he sounds less Sean
Yeah, well,
in this movie than he does later.
Yeah,
I kind
I
of think he
mean,
was still building his accent.
in the Bond movies especially, you can tell he's trying to have more of like a clean, posh, or at least like upper crust British accent, and will occasionally slip
Your
into-
Majesty.
Yeah.
In it.
yeah, and it'll occasionally slip into something that sounds a little bit more Scottish.
Yeah.
But as far as the voice that I guess you may have heard when I was possessed last week, that doesn't really come into full force until later.
Right. That's kind of like Silver Fox era Sean Connery, where he's like gone. Well, his toupee has gone gray.
he's buried he's had a little funeral for his toupee. And
Yes.
he's just decided that he's gonna rock being bald.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marty. So, I really like the opening of this movie. There's like the little opening credit sequence, which is like the pages turning, and like there's a great like the Universal logo is drawn on one of the pages, like hand drawn, and all the credits are hand drawn, and these pages are flipping, and it's really nice. I like this opening credit sequence quite a bit. I always feel like calling out a Hitchcock opening credit sequence is worthwhile because like some of my favorite opening credit sequences are in his films.
Yeah, I don't know that this was a Saul Bass credit sequence.
I'm not sure.
While
You're looking that up, I will mention over the opening credits, you get your first taste of this Bernard Herrmann score. No surprise to me that Bernard Herrmann, legendary film scorer, film composer, that's the word for that. Legendary film composer Bernard Herrmann made a good score, but like he did. The score in this movie is quite good.
Yeah, and this is his final score for Hitchcock because he was fired from, I believe, Torn Curtain, which was the next movie. He was fired by the producers, and they replaced it with like a pop and jazz score.
Yeah. What do you think of the score in this movie?
It's okay. It didn't particularly stand out to me among Herman's scores, but I think it's still like it's Herman doing what he does best. So like it's still pretty good.
Yeah, I like the main theme, the like kind of like Marnie theme. That whole thing is really nice.
Yeah.
I also like how in some of the darker moments of this movie, the score does go as dark as the movie's going. Like there's a few times when the score gets like really dissonant, and I like that shit a lot. But yeah, so when we open on like just a red-faced screaming man being like, "We've been robbed, we've been hoodwinked," or whatever.
Well, the first shot of the movie is Marnie from behind with her handbag tucked under her arm, and I really do like the way this movie withholds the reveal.
Her character reveal is one of my favorite things in this movie. It is so well done. Because you see her walking with the bag, then it cuts to the guy yelling about the robbery. You see the safe open in the background.
We get a brief introduction to Sean Connery.
Yes, I love the moment where this guy, who's the guy who comes back later, what's his character name? It's like
Strutt. Sidney Strutt.
Yes. I like when Strutt is talking to the two detectives, and they're like, "Can you describe her?" And he's like, "Well, she's 5'5", she's brunette, she's got perfect teeth, she's got an amazing face, she's about he just goes into way too much detail.
Tits out to here.
Right,
exactly. You could set a platter on.
It is basically like he's like, she's about a B, maybe C cup, probably a 26-inch waist. Like he's got so many details, and the cops are like, "Okay, all right." Her shoes are a size 5, tiny little toes. Yeah, it just seems like this dude has been spending lots of time looking at this woman.
And they hired her without references.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's immediately suspicious.
Yes. And Sean Connery walks into this scene and is basically like, "Oh, that girl who was working the books like stole the money, right?" And so we know that he has seen her around there before, right? And then we catch back up with Marnie. She's walking with the yellow bag. We see her go, and she washes the brunette hair dye out of her hair, flips her hair up. It's like blonde now.
Yeah,
and
that's like a reveal shot that it's
Yes.
Tippi Hedren
in the mirror, and it is so good.
And there's lots of close-ups of like her taking stuff out of her bag
Yeah.
and adjusting around like all of these fake social security cards.
Yeah.
We also get our Hitchcock cameo here, where
Yes.
she walks down the hall of this hotel room or this hotel hallway, and he
this
opens the door and just
portly gentleman
spikes the camera
Yeah.
walks
and looks
away.
embarrassed, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
I appreciate that he it looks like he walks into the movie by accident and is
He's
like,
like,
oh goodness.
Oh, there's a movie going on here.
Yes. Hitchcock, complicated feelings on the guy. I do like his director's cameos.
I do like seeing that fat bastard show up.
that portly misogynist. I think we can call Hitchcock a fat fuck. I think we're allowed.
He built an image on being fat. Like that's the first image of the Alfred Hitchcock Presents is like, hey,
Right.
look at my fat,
Look
disgusting
Look
belly.
at my big fat belly. I don't know why I'm making him sound like Winston Churchill. He sounded a little bit like that, but not as much as I'm doing.
I haven't worked on a Hitchcock. I haven't done a. I haven't really figured out a Hitchcock voice because he's sort of like this. It's sort of drab and down here.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit like Winston. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm making him more like a type of British guy.
I say.
Yes. Which is not actually how he sounded. But I don't care, since one of my impressions actually sounded like the person that they were of. Yeah, so Marnie has gotten away with this money. I do like, when we see that she has all the social security cards with the different names, it's very clear that she's been doing this for a while. She's like a professional thief, right? I also like there's a moment where, I don't remember if it's here or later, but one of the times she's packing her suitcase, she lays down a pair of gloves really gently in the suitcase, and then in the other suitcase just like chucks a bra in like really like nonchalantly, like with no care. And I feel like that was very intentional. It kind of shows you how she feels about each side of her life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, oh yes, like these like lace gloves, like this is a thing that I like bought with this money that I steal as my career. It's like a status symbol. And then the bra thing is like an undergarment, and she's like, I don't give a shit about this. Like I wish I could just like not even engage with this part of my life, and that is one of many things in this movie where I'm like, I think Alfred Hitchcock maybe understood the psychology of women in a way that a guy who habitually abuses women does, which is like, I feel like he understands pretty well how women think and has just taken all the wrong lessons from learning that stuff, right? He's basically like studied how women think in order to manipulate them. But he does actually also seem to have a decent understanding of the feminine psyche to some degree.
Yeah.
He's just coming at it from an angle that's from a problematic angle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's the difficult thing with this stuff is I think women feature so prominently in his works, and obviously he worked with like Grace Kelly multiple times, Tippi Hedren multiple times. And he clearly has a lot of sympathy as a filmmaker for these female characters and understands how they work and understands the things that drive them, but also is like, pretty familiar with and not averse to harassing them and belittling them and making life difficult for them.
In a lot of ways, it feels like Hitchcock is the Sean Connery character from this movie, right? Where it definitely feels like a very intentional kind of self-insert thing to me, where he's like, Sean Connery's character, we find out later, is like was supposed to be a zoologist before he took over his parents' company, and he like studies animals, and he has this whole thing where he's like, oh, I got this like predator, this wild cat, right, to respect me or to tolerate me being around, and that's very much his tactic with Marnie, right? And I'm like, I kind of feel like that's how Hitchcock viewed himself, which is like as like a tamer of women, which is like very, very gross. But also at the same time, it's like he also like got a lot about how women see the world by observing them in order to like prey on them. Yeah.
Yeah, and the in the trailer for this movie, Hitchcock made an appearance because that's what he did in a lot of the trailers. Just like, I'm Alfred Hitchcock, and I'm going to tell you about my movie before you see it.
It's going to scare the shit out of you.
Um,
More than me standing here telling you it's going to scare the shit out of you.
Yes, what if Jimmy Stewart fell in love with a lady that looked like a lady in a painting? That would be fucking spooky.
Anthony Perkins dresses up like his mother. Oh, I've given away the end of the film.
Shit, I spoiled Psycho.
Drat!
But he talks about, you know, the central mystery of the movie of being like, who's playing who? You know, who's predator and who's the prey in this situation between Marnie and Mark Rutland. And it does seem like at this point in his career, Hitchcock becomes more interested in depicting and exploring sexual violence in his movies. Because he goes on to do this in, I believe, Frenzy is one of his later movies from the 70s. And it's sort of, it feels like he doesn't approach this subject with the same kind of skill or care or understanding that even relative to the time that he did with some of the subjects he explored in his previous movies.
Yeah. God, I hate what I'm about to say. I hate that I'm about to say this a lot, but you know who handles this subject with more like tact and care in the same time period? Roman Polanski.
Oh no!
In Repulsion, which came out 1 year after Marnie.
Fuck, go back. I upgraded in my Alfred Hitchcock for Roman Polanski. Go back.
It's really unfortunate that Marnie comes out, and it's like the sort of take that the movie seems to have is like, maybe sometimes you have to sexually assault a woman for her own good. I feel like we're harping on this a lot, and it's like an important part of the movie, but at the same time, it's like we're gonna talk about how it's more complicated than that. But yes, so like that's Marnie, right? And then in Repulsion, which comes out 1 year later and is directed by Roman Polanski, it's like, oh, sexual violence like is a blight on our society, and like women are justified in feeling like unmitigated rage towards sexual predators, and like we as a society need to like solve this problem.
But everyone look over there while I do it.
Right?
Myself.
It is watching the experience of watching Repulsion. If you've never seen Repulsion, I do recommend the movie.
I haven't seen it.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
The experience of watching Repulsion is nauseating and infuriating because the movie is saying all the right things about sexual violence against women, and then you look at the motherfucker who made it and you're like, how the hell did you make this movie? Like, how did you make this movie and then go do those things? It just anyway, that's my Repulsion soapbox. I'm off it now. But it is wild that like even for the time, Hitchcock was a little regressive in how he was handling this stuff, you know?
Yeah. I think at this point, like, it was clear that he was trying to continue to push the envelope and recapture that success and that controversy that he got off of, you know, like Psycho.
Right.
And it just sort of results in a movie that I think is good, but thematically and structurally a little bit messier than some of his better works.
These are definitely murky waters that we have to wade through thematically.
Yeah.
Right? And like, and we'll get into it, but I don't think it's all bad. I think some of the stuff that this movie says thematically holds up and works. And then I think some of it is, gross. Anyway, so Marnie, she has a new identity. She's Mary something.
Yeah.
Mary. Yeah.
She goes home to Baltimore.
Oh yeah, she
meets her mom.
Yes, and this
or
scene
we meet her mom.
Yes, this scene is incredibly important. And it's very important that it happens at this point in the movie. While I was watching it, I kind of didn't know where this movie was going. I didn't really know anything about this movie going in. And when we got here, we spend so much time with the mom and then this shitty little street child.
This fucking latchkey kid, street urchin.
Okay, so like we spent so much time here, and then like an hour later into the movie, I was like, oh, that was so important. And I'm glad that it was where it was and was as long as it was. In the moment, it is hilarious when it's like, wow, Tippi Hedren has stolen all this money from this safe and she's like changed her identity. And then she opens a door and a fucking kid from like the Andy Griffith Show opens the door. And is like, oh, hi. And she's like, oh, it's you. I love how much Tippi Hedren's character hates this child.
Because it's pretty clear that like she has a difficult relationship with her mom and is basically to her mom like, why didn't you ever love me at this point?
The way you love this neighbor child.
And it's clear that her mom has been showering this little child with all her love and affection that she didn't have for her.
And it seems like her mom
daughter.
like runs like a boarding house maybe or something. She's got a room that she's maybe going to rent out to this kid and her mom. But she's just like doting on this like neighborhood child and like brushing her hair and making her pecan pie. And Marnie's like, hey, why didn't you ever do any of that shit for me? Like, why do you like this random urchin more than you like me, your adult daughter?
And her mom's giving her a bunch of shit about like her hair, there's a quote like, blonde hair always seems like you're trying to attract a man's attention. And I'm like, well, especially if you're Alfred Hitchcock, I bet you feel that way.
Yeah. Also, just like, I don't know, some people are just fucking born with that hair color. Like, men need to understand it's not that deep. But yeah,
it's very clear that her mom just sucks shit.
Her mom is a little bit like the mom in Carrie.
Yeah.
where she's just like has like all of these, she wants her daughter to be decent, you know? And yeah, it's just like a little bit of like, she's like kind of cold and loveless, but also a little domineering and shit. And it's very clear that Marnie is very eager to please her. Like a lot of this money is for her, we learn, you know, and it's like the mom just kind of seems like she like doesn't want anything to do with her own kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Marnie applies for a new job, adopts a new identity, and gets hired at Rutland's company.
Yes.
Unknowingly, she doesn't realize that they have any sort of past, and immediately hatches a new scam or a new plot to steal money out of his safe.
Yeah. The scene where she gets hired at the company is a scene where I'm like, okay, this movie is dealing with some of these themes in a way that is like intelligent and like works for the time, right? Because it's like when she shows up, this older woman is being interviewed for the bookkeeping position, and as this older lady, middle-aged woman is on her way out, Ward, I think his name is Mr. Ward, who like works for Rutland, is like, oh yeah, all of your qualifications are perfect, like we'll give you a call, you know, you'll start Monday or whatever. As this woman's walking out, and then Mark sees Tippi Hedren, right, and is like, hey, like bring her in here for a second. And they bring her in, and like she's like she's interviewing with Mr. Ward, and like Mark's just like standing in the corner, right? And she's like not super impressive on paper. She's like, well, I had one job, but then, I don't have a lot of experience, but like my deceased husband like told me a lot of stuff that he knows. But like on paper, she's like not a good candidate, you know? And Mr. Ward is basically like, oh, okay, well, thanks so much for your time. And then he like looks over at Mark, and Mark just like nods at him. And he's like, fuck, okay, I guess we have to hire this lady because the boss is horny for her, right? And then like he's like, "You've got the job," and she leaves. And then Ward goes up to Mark and is like, "Why the fuck did you do that? Like, you always are like so like such a stickler about like qualifications. Like, you always want to hire the best people." And he's like, "Well, you know, I just like liked what I saw or whatever." And Ward is like, "The fuck is that supposed to mean?" I just love that little moment because I'm like, it feels like the movie being self-aware enough to comment on misogyny instead of just do misogyny, you know? It feels like a moment where like the movie is like, yeah, like men are pigs, you know? And sometimes like men make decisions that they know are like illogical in order to put themselves in a position to prey on a woman, you know? Like, this is like a bad like business choice. He's like hiring a worse employee so that he can like prey on this woman, you know? And it feels like the movie knows that and is showing that to you as like a commentary on it instead of just being like, "Oh, these secretaries with their short skirts, don't we love them, boys?" You know?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. I also think that kind of the push and pull with Hitchcock's depiction of women is like it is still colored by Hitchcock's own misogyny,
Right?
and the movie does sort of. I mean, it sets up Tippi Hedren's character as this woman who is preying on men, and preying on men's, you know, inability to, the fact that men can't keep it in their fucking pants.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. When I was watching this movie, I never saw her as the villain or the predator in this situation, like ever. Like, I saw that stuff in the movie, but I think the movie gives you enough room to be like, no, she's the sympathetic character, you know, and Mark is the bad guy.
Yeah, I think there's room. This movie's been compared a lot to Gone Girl.
Yeah.
And I think just by the virtue of, you know, Gone Girl being made in the 2010s as opposed to the 60s,
You're right.
Gone Girl has a lot more room for you to explore all the ins and outs and the sympathetic qualities of each character.
It has a more nuanced modern take on the gender dynamics of the whole thing. Yeah. But I feel like that stuff is here too. Like, it's also in this movie. And I feel like as much as Hitchcock's misogyny gets in the movie's way, it also sometimes feels like the movie is a self-aware Hitchcock commentating on his own misogyny to some extent, and not like abandoning it, not being like, "Oh, I was misogynistic and now I have learned better," or whatever, and I'm showing you all of the ways I used to be wrong, right? But it does feel like he is aware of his own feelings on women enough that he can like commentate on them from like a little bit more of like a meta way rather than just like being entrenched in them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have some more thoughts on that in regards to Sean Connery, but we can talk about that when we get a little bit deeper into it. Also, so she's trying to hatch a plan to break into this safe, and I love this oblivious, stupid secretary who's just blabbing about the safe when Tippi Hedren asks about it, and she's like, "Oh yeah, Mr. So-and-so always forgets the combination to the safe, and it's right here in this drawer, and it's 3 numbers, and here's the key." Or it's 5 numbers.
Yeah.
It's 5 numbers, and here's the key. And
I have one, and this other person has one. Yeah. She like goes through the whole. She's basically like. So it's funny that you asked that question, because if you were trying to steal money from the safe, this would be the exact information you needed.
Right.
So you better, but of course you're not trying to steal money from the safe. But if you were, here's everything you would need to know to steal money from the safe.
And it's been alluded to a few times already, but Marnie is triggered by the color red.
Yes.
And there's
by lightning. Well, we get to the lightning.
Yeah, and by lightning, but red, like a very, very intense shade of red. And it happens here where she drips some red ink on her blouse, and the screen goes red like it's in Kill Bill.
Yeah.
Probably because Kill Bill was referencing this movie.
Potentially.
And there's a moment where she goes to the bathroom to clean it off.
Yeah.
The color red thing is such a weird aspect to this movie that feels like an afterthought. It feels like a parody of a Hitchcock character trait, a Hitchcock mystery.
Okay.
Because I mean, the reveal at the end, I don't think is particularly earth-shattering or all that hard to figure out. But it's like, yeah, she's a thief, and she's maybe preying on men, and maybe her husband's, Rutland's trying to manipulate her and abuse her and prey on her more. And every time she sees the color red, she
has a panic attack.
She gets thrown into a fit of hysteria.
Right. Yeah.
It's just I don't think that aspect of this movie is particularly well done.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I hadn't really thought about it that way. I was just sort of like, oh yeah, that kind of works, So I didn't really have an issue with it, but like I don't disagree with what you're saying. Like it does feel like a pretty it feels like just one of the things that Hitchcock like pulls out of his bag of tricks and is like, oh yeah, I'll use this one. That's fine. That'll work here or whatever. And I don't know if it's from the book or not, but either way, it just feels a little bit like, yeah, like Hitchcock by the numbers sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like we were talking about the lightning thing that basically comes up here, right? Because she gets triggered by the red ink on her sleeve. She's planning the robbery still.
Yeah.
And then in here is when she's in Rutland's office because he's like, oh, I have a special assignment for you. And it's just the two of them in his office. And he's like, oh, I want you to like type up this paper that I wrote and make a copy of this paper that I wrote about like some animal that he's studying because he's a hobbyist zoologist, right?
Yes.
And we get the whole thing about how he's inheriting his company from his dad. It was like the company was failing, and then he came in and like fired everybody and took over and turned it
very
around.
interested in predator and prey relationships.
Yes.
Almost like that's going to be a theme of the movie.
Almost as if I'm going to be preying on you in a second. Yes.
But we're going to make it sort of sexy, so it's going to be hard for the audience to figure out who's the predator and who's the prey. Gender dynamics in the 60s.
I feel like, yes, and that's what the movie's shooting for. I feel like for me, again, I feel like it's quite clear who's the predator and who's the prey. Yeah, so he's like, yeah, like make a copy of this paper, and she like goes to start typing, and then there's a thunderstorm outside, so like lightning flashes, and she has a panic attack basically when this happens. And his reaction to this is fucking insane. So like Mark Rutland is a psychopath. He is a emotionless monster. And the first indication that we get of that is that a woman is having a full-blown panic attack in his office, and he's like, why don't you sit down and drink some booze, bitch? You'll feel a lot better. Right? It's not in those words, but that's very much his reaction is just like so like emotionally dead. Where he's not like, are you all right? Can I help? He's just like, wow, you're really freaking the fuck out. You're like a scared little animal. That makes me have a boner.
And then when the tree comes through the window,
he doesn't react fucking at all to the fact that a huge tree branch just smashed into his office.
That'll be fine. I'll have the insurance cover that.
The tree branch like comes through the window of his office, and he doesn't say anything about it until after he has already kissed her without consent. Yeah. He's like, first things first. I'll deal with that in a second. First things first. Let me put the moves on this traumatized woman. Anyway, yes, I'll call maintenance about that tree branch.
Like, we both almost got killed by a tree, and this woman next to me is clearly experiencing some sort of emotional distress. She's hugging me, though.
She's hugging.
Let me see if I can slip her the tongue.
She's hugging him because he like came over and grabbed her, and she's holding on to him because she's still like in the middle of a panic attack, and he's like, "Let me kiss you on your eyelid there." I do like, because I think it's one of the things that leaves you some wiggle room in this movie to watch this movie and feel like you get something out of it and that it's not just gross top to bottom. When he kisses her, it is like the camera zooms way in on his lips and you see extremely clearly that he is kissing her and she is not interested in being kissed or is not kissing him back. Like it zooms way in on him kissing her on the forehead and then on the cheek and then on the lips, and she is just like closed off to it the entire time. And I'm like, that's very interesting that it makes that so clear so early, because at least for me, from that moment on, I am fully team Marnie in all of the power struggle shit between the two of them for the rest of the movie, because I'm like, this woman is not interested. Leave her alone. Leave her alone.
I'm trying to remember the music from that scene, because I sort of remember it hitting like kind of a big brassy, like romantic kind of swell.
Yes.
And it's and I think that that contrast makes this scene really, really powerful and sets up their relationship really well, because it is sort of like, commenting on the typical Hollywood romance a little bit.
It totally feels that way to me, and it feels like the Bernard Herrmann romantic music swell is in Mark's head in that scene, because he thinks that's what's happening, and in reality there's like a traumatized, emotionally shattered woman who he is just preying on in that scene. Like that's what's actually happening. And to him, he's like, oh, what a romantic meet cute in this thunderstorm where I'm protecting this woman, instead of what the reality of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they start a relationship.
They start a relationship. He her boss, basically forces her to start dating him. Yes.
But it seems like they at least have, some sort of happy time for a while she's secretly planning to steal money from him.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about this movie is I'm glad that it reinforces the fact that it is morally okay to steal from your employer.
Yes.
It is your moral imperative.
Yes. Anytime he started going on later, like after he finds out that she's a thief and everything, and he starts like moralizing to her about it and is like, you've got to turn your life around. You don't want to be like this forever. I'm like, yes, she does. Marnie did nothing wrong. It is a non-violent, victimless crime. That money is insured and it all belongs to rich people anyway.
There's a scene here at the horse track where they're very there's some playful banter of them betting on horses and stuff. And then this guy comes up and he's like, "Hey, don't I fucking recognize you from somewhere?" And she's like, "No, I'm sure I don't."
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm pretty sure I do. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be a dick for the next few minutes about this."
Yeah, he's like being really pushy and being like, "Why are you lying to me? I know who you are. I've seen you around here with what's his name or whatever." And then so she's just very consistent and very cool with this, where she's just like, "I'm sorry, sir, I do not know what you're talking about."
And it's clear that this is some guy she's scammed in the past.
Yeah, or at least knew another guy that she had scammed in the past, because he's like, "Oh, I've seen you around with," and he says some other guy's name, and my thinking was kind of like she had been playing the scam on that guy, and this guy was just like someone who recognized her from that era of her, one of her heists, But then I like when Mark comes back. And he's like, hey, he's basically like, "Is this guy bothering you? Like, what's going on?" And he's like, she's like, "Oh, this man is sure that he knows me or whatever." And he's like, "Well, do you know him?" And she's like, "No." And then he turns to the guy and is like, "She doesn't know you." and it is the funny thing where, again, I feel like this movie is kind of like self-aware enough to comment on this stuff without just like blindly executing it, right? It is a pointed moment where he is really insistent when it's just him and her, and then as soon as there's another man who enters the situation, he's like, "Oh, so sorry, must be a misunderstanding," and walks away, right? Because he felt like he had the power to like keep pushing when it's just a woman, and then as soon as there's another man involved, he backs off.
It also reminds me of something that I took away from watching Inland Empire about how men will be caring and kind and empathetic and portray themselves a certain way to women just long enough to let them feel like they can let their guard down and then use it as an opportunity to abuse them.
Yep.
And that sort of seems like what Mark's character has been doing.
That's exactly what he does, right?
Yeah.
We see that really clearly later on the honeymoon ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a horse track. Then, then she comes over to meet the parents. To meet the Mark's dad, and then so Mark had was married before, and his wife died, and his sister-in-law, his deceased wife's sister, also lives in the house with them, and this is Lil, who is psychosexually obsessed with Sean Connery. I think Lil is, in many ways, the most unhinged character in this movie. Like, I feel like the movie is like, probably the author's take and Hitchcock's take on this was like, oh, Marnie is like psychologically tormented and she's like a broken woman or whatever. Like, she's the one who is like not in her right mind, right? And meanwhile, Lil is off to the side here, and I'm like, she's the one who really needs to go see a doctor.
It also seems like a sort of thing that I picked up on watching Bond movies from this era, where it's like, okay, blondes, perfect, gorgeous, beautiful. Brunettes, not to be trusted.
Yes, trash.
They will ruin your lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always felt like the thing with I was waiting for the thing with Lil to really like come to a head, and it doesn't.
Yeah. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Because there's the very climactic scene towards the end with the two of them, but then like that's it. and then like presumably at the end of the movie they're just gonna go back to the house and continue living with Lil, who's gonna just keep trying to break them up so that she can fuck Sean Connery.
Yeah, I was fully expecting Lil to like try to kill Marnie at some point in this movie.
It honestly seems like that is where things may still be headed after this movie ends. I feel like this movie may end and like Marnie 2 picks up with Lil just trying to kill Marnie. This woman she's a real piece of work. She's just like, there's something about being sexually obsessed with your own brother-in-law that I find enormously off-putting from this character. Like, immediately I'm like, okay, so this is the villain of the movie. she's like fucking the character from Crimson Peak. Anyway, yeah, Crimson Peak heads, we'll get that one. But
I think the next big thing here is the robbery.
Yeah.
Which is classic, really well done Hitchcock, visual storytelling with basically no dialogue and no music. I love the shot of her trying to open the safe in like the foreground, and in the background you see the rest of the office, and there's a cleaning lady coming in.
Yeah. Initially it's just the empty hallway, and then the cleaning lady appears at the end of the hallway, and you're like, oh fuck. And if you are in the correct camp, which is the Marnie did nothing wrong camp, at this point in the movie, you are just like, please, please, please get away. So it's awesome when she does get away.
Please get away, get in a car, don't stop at the Bates Motel.
Drive out of the movie. Out of the movie. You're too good for the movie, Marnie.
It's so funny that this and Psycho basically start with the same premise.
Yes.
It's like, what if a woman stole from her employer?
I'm obsessed with hot women stealing money. It really gets me going when a hot lady steals a bunch of money. I'm Alfred Hitchcock, and today I'm here to tell you about my new movie, Hot Lady Steals a Bunch of Money. I've already made a couple movies with this premise, but this time it's the whole thing. 2 uninterrupted hours of a hot lady stealing money. They're not letting me put this one out in regular cinemas, so check your local Skinflix house to see a hot lady stealing money in a bra.
10 out of 10, no notes. So she steals the money.
Mm-hmm.
there's a little bit here where she like tucks her shoes into her jacket and so she can sneak away undetected. And she drops one of the shoes, and it turns out the cleaning lady has hearing problems.
Yes. I like it. This whole sequence works. It's very suspenseful. The whole thing where it's like zooming in on the shoe slowly, like getting more and more out of her pocket. It works.
It's good. It does sort of feel like Hitchcock slipping a little bit, but maybe that's because I think he's maybe trying to set up the robbery as more of a climactic or powerful sequence that's going to set events in motion for the rest of the movie. In a way it is, but it's not like the main thing that this movie is focused on.
It is sort of a fake out. Like the movie kind of pulls one over on you because you think, oh, she's going to like steal from him. And then the rest of the movie is going to be like maybe them trying to track her down or something.
But the next scene, he immediately finds her.
He finds her right away because he has been investigating her and doing research.
Do you know that I'm secretly the Terminator?
Yeah.
I've tracked you down. I'm going to get that money back one way or another.
I need your clothes, your boots, your motorcycle. Just... Sean Connery Terminator. Come with me if you want to live.
Skynet outfitted me with a reinforced metal arm that I can slap women with.
Even if they're metal women. The lady Terminator from Terminator 4, I have a special slapping arm that's just for lady Terminators. Yeah, he finds her immediately and is like, hey, the jig's up, and she immediately is like trapped. He entraps her to do sexual blackmail. Is pretty much immediately what we learn, right? Because he goes back to her like room at this like boarding house, like where her horse is being boarded. There's like a property that she's visiting, and this is where he's like saying, like, he gets really menacing all of a sudden. He's like, hey, like I have a powerful urge to beat the hell out of you right now. And it like, we've really turned, right? And on the one hand, with him initially, you're like, okay, so this guy's been hurt. They've been dating. And then she like stole money and ran off, right? But like, the more you realize that he has sort of known who she is all along.
Right. He's been suspicious, it sounds like.
The more it's like, oh, this is coming from a way darker place with him. It's not just like, oh, I went to get my girlfriend back because she stole money and left town and I want to like talk her into staying with me. It's like, no, he kind of thought she might have been a thief when he hired her, and he's sort of been playing her the whole time to get her into this position where he would have all the power and she would have no escape, And like, as soon as you notice that or realize that about this movie, it's like, oh, that is like an incredibly fucked up. And sort of interesting for a movie from 1964 to go that fucked up, It's a thing that I sort of appreciate about this movie is it's like, the more you realize about Mark's character and in his sort of the way that he's been playing this game of chess with her since the beginning, the more you're kind of like, oh, I kind of think this movie is like, it's the Hitchcock teaser thing, right? Where it's like, who's playing who, sort of. But it's like, it seems like it's going to be about like this kind of smart criminal woman and this like hapless pig of a man. And it's like, no, it's a smart criminal woman and a criminal pig of a man. Like a calculating, cold predator.
And I think a big part of what makes Mark work as a character is, of course, Sean Connery's performance.
Yeah.
I think Connery's excellent in this.
I agree.
I think he's easily the best thing about this movie.
I agree. I think he's great in this movie.
And I think it's playing on his Bond persona a little bit, where it's like, yeah, what if we treated all of those creepy things that James Bond says to women as creepy?
Yeah.
And he's so good at, like, he makes the calmer, more romantic moments with Tippi Hedren have this undercurrent of sleaze and creepiness to them.
He always feels creepy.
And also sort of finds a way to make the more overtly aggressive, misogynistic moments feel a little sexy.
Right.
Or give them a stronger like sexual undercurrent.
Yeah. And none of it is in a way where you are comfortable with him. Like all of that stuff, it's always like,
Yeah.
right? Basically the whole time. Pretty much from when he walks into this movie. You're like, there's something about this guy that has me on edge.
The character does a very good job at playing with Marnie's expectations and the audience's expectations.
Right.
You're sort of always on edge with her and unsure of what this guy's about to do next.
Yeah. Yeah. What he does do next is, because basically they have this whole conversation. They get in the car, they go to a diner, and the whole time he's trying to figure out like her real backstory. He's like, oh, okay, so I guess your real name isn't Mary, whatever. And he's trying to get some truth out of her. She keeps lying to him, right? And she's very clearly trying to say things to make him happy. And specifically so that he'll like let her go, right? So she keeps being like, I just stole this one time. I feel really sorry about it. Like, so, you don't have to worry about it. Like, this was a one-time mistake. And he's like not buying that. And like at one point he says that he loves her. And she's like, well, if you really loved me, what you would do is let me go because that's what I want, So she's trying to play all the angles she can with him, and like none of it's working.
Yeah, he basically blackmails her into marrying him.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's sort of that, again, like that Gone Girl setup of like, hey, we're just gonna have a marriage that's built on a lie and built on this mutual distrust of each other.
Yeah, so they get married. That happens real quick because we get from him finding her after the robbery to them getting married quickly, because then the next bit we transition. That's the transition period between what we thought this movie was about, which is a woman who steals from her employers, to what this movie is actually about, which is like a man keeping a woman prisoner. And that really kicks off in earnest like on the honeymoon boat. There's like a scene like right as they're leaving, which I kind of like, between Lil and some other member of the family who's not really ever clearly defined, but they're talking about it, and like they're like, yeah, this is so weird. He's like marrying her right away. He's spending all this money. He bought her a $42,000 ring. Like, this is so bizarre. And Lil here starts to get suspicious about Marnie and is like, okay, I gotta like look into this more and like figure out what the fuck's going on, because she wants to be with Mark, but also because she's just like had her hackles raised by this woman just like suddenly entering their lives.
Yeah,
some
of the stuff here between the proposal and them leaving for the honeymoon, where Mark is like planning the lie that he's going to tell about like, oh, your name's Marnie. Okay, well, if your fake name was Mary or whatever, we can play that off as like a pet name. It's really interesting to watch his brain work and immediately try to spin the story that he's going to tell to keep this woman. But then we get to the honeymoon cruise, and everything here is just awful and terrible. It is awful and terrible, and also it's just very interesting because it's like the whole shit in here where he's like she's like basically hiding from him, like she's like spending like almost an hour in the bathroom. She like doesn't want to be around him, and then he's like, oh, like come sit here next to me, and he like tries to make a move on her, and she like runs away from him and is like, do not touch me, I don't want to be touched. And he's like, okay, if you don't want that, I won't, right? And she's like, she starts to kind of like calm down a little bit when she expresses like, you do not have permission to touch me, and he's like, okay, right? And so then like they have a little conversation about it, and he's basically like, well, like whatever you want, like whenever you're comfortable, we'll talk about all this stuff. I'm gonna like leave you alone, we'll sleep in our different beds, I'm not gonna force you to do anything. And she's like, you promise, right? She's basically like, do you promise that you are not going to touch me? And he's like, yes, I do, right? And I think that is such an important and interesting thing that is included here, that we see him promise that, and then in a couple scenes we see him go back on his word
and assault her anyway.
Yeah.
Even though they had this conversation, because I feel like if the message of the movie was like, it's okay to sexually assault your wife when she is holding out on you or whatever, right? If it was that egregiously misogynistic and gross, right? Then they just wouldn't have included this conversation. I feel like the take that the movie has is more complex than that. And I don't think that it still lands on like the right side of the line, but it is interesting that we see him be like, yes, I promise I will not do this to you. And then he does it to her. It feels like it's the movie saying stuff about like, yeah, men can't really be trusted. You know, men are trash, you know? And like the movie sort of plays it off as like, oh, well, what was he supposed to do? She was holding out on him. But at the same time, it's like, it doesn't absolve him. It never says that what he does is okay.
I don't know how the audience of the time, you know, men in the audience would react to Mark. And maybe that's more of just a problem with the 60s in general and misogyny in the 60s in general, and it's not necessarily a fault of this movie. But Mark's perspective is sort of like, I've been a really good boy for respecting your boundaries and respecting the fact that you don't want to have sex. As a reward, wouldn't it be great if we could have a little sex?
Right. And that is the thing that is interesting to me is that this movie depicts that so clearly, and it is a thing that is so real, right? Like almost every single person I've ever interacted with in my life has been on one or the other side of that at some point, right? Been like, oh, wow, I respected your boundaries for so long, so don't you think I deserve a little treat by crossing your boundaries? Right? Yeah. It's like, that is like shit. That is the type of fucking horrible, violent, patriarchal gender dynamic that is so baked into culture that like almost everyone I know has been in that situation in one way or the other. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's very interesting to me that it's in this movie, you know? Because it is so real, and it's something that you don't really see a lot, especially in movies of the time, right? Where and I think the movie lets it be gross. You know, it's like it is gross. I felt gross while it was happening in the movie, and I was like, I don't think I feel gross in spite of the movie's take on this. I feel like I feel gross because the movie is like, yeah, it's a little gross. It feels a little bit to me like Hitchcock is like, the way I feel about women is a little gross, but it's still how I feel about women, you know?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
And the scene itself, when he actually gets up to assault her,
yeah,
is, you know, I think it's shot very well and like treated pretty tastefully, despite Hitchcock's insistence and excitement that he wanted to shoot it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's a close-up of Sean Connery's face and then a close-up of Tippi Hedren's face with this blank, numb, dead expression as he gets on top of her, and then it pans over to the window.
And this is one of the moments where the Bernard Herrmann score gets really dissonant and dark and upsetting. Right? So we're also being told through the score that it's like, this is a bad thing that's happening. Yeah. It's not good.
Yeah,
you know?
We know what that fade out means.
Yeah. And then the follow-up to it is really powerful too, because he wakes up in the morning and she's not in her bed.
Yeah, and it mirrors the previous shot where it starts on the window and then pans over and she's not in her bed and then pans over to him in his bed.
Yeah. And then he like searches the ship for her and finds her laying face first in a swimming pool on this cruise ship, attempting to drown herself, right? And he like pulls her out of the pool and resuscitates her. So it's like immediately after this like assault, we see the psychological toll that it takes on her, which leads her to a suicide attempt. And it feels really, it's very dark and very pointed, you know, in a way where I'm like, I feel like the movie is kind of like, yeah, fucking, he like made her try to kill herself by doing violence to her, you know? And then like later in the movie kind of wants us to like give a shit about Mark after this. And that's what I think maybe doesn't work as well.
Yeah.
But all of this stuff, I'm like, the story that you're telling here is very upsetting, but it also feels very like real and true in a lot of ways. You know, it feels like it's like you are understanding the psychological toll that sexual assault can have on a person, right? And
what does she say? He asks her why she jumped in the pool and not off the ship.
she said, I was trying to kill myself, not feed the fish.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a funny line.
Yeah, I did like that. And I was wondering the same thing, right? Why didn't she just jump overboard? And it seemed like the way that she delivered that line, the way I interpreted it, is she wanted him to know.
Yeah, she wanted him to find her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was because she hates him. She hates him. And she wants him to know that it was his fault that she died, right? That's why in the pool, right? And then, but yeah, so he resuscitates her, and then they end the honeymoon and go back home, you know? And there's stuff here with where she's sort of like trying to appease him again, because that's the thing that has worked the best, right? And so she's kind of like, oh, like I'll just like play the good wife or whatever. We have more stuff with Lil looking into her, like she's like listening in on phone calls and stuff. Like Marnie calls her mom to tell her that she'll like be sending money soon, and Lil overhears that and has been like just generally snooping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The word association scene,
Yeah.
I think, is another one of the stronger scenes in the movie.
Mhm.
It's another moment where Mark is trying to figure out who Marnie is and what her backstory is and what makes her tick.
Yeah. But not because he cares about her, because he's looking for more fucking like ammunition to use against her, you know? Which I think is I think her reaction to it is so important to highlighting that piece of it, right? Where it's like he's trying to play it off as like, oh, well, I love you and I want to fix what's wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she like totally, in the same way that he sees through her bullshit, she sees through his bullshit and is like, no, you're not asking because you care. You're asking because you want to control me.
Yeah.
And the only thing you can't control are the secrets that I'm keeping from you, so you don't want there to be any secrets, right?
I think at this point in the movie, Tippi Hedren's performance starts standing out to me a little bit more, because I think for the first half I'm sort of like, I sort of wish this was Grace Kelly. I you know, she's fine. I don't know how, but once her character has to play, once she has to play the more emotional scenes and stuff like that, I think her performance is quite strong, actually.
Yeah.
And in this word association scene, where he's just like psychologically tormenting her and breaking her down, she does a very good job at portraying that.
Yeah. Yeah. And how she kind of starts the scene as the aggressor, and then he kind of flips the tables on her, and she's like, and you know, you can kind of see the thing where she's like, it's not even worth fucking fighting back. It's not worth doing what he wants because it ends badly for me. It's not worth fighting back because it ends badly for me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tippi Hedren said in an interview that between this and The Birds, this was her preferred performance because it was such a complex character, and I would have to agree.
Yeah.
I feel like she's sort of forgettable in The Birds, if I'm remembering. Or I guess I'm forgetting.
Yeah.
You know, like
I have always, this is my take on it. I've always liked The Birds. I've always been sort of medium on Tippi Hedren's performance in The Birds.
Yeah.
I loved her in this movie. I think she's great in Marnie. Yeah, I was really, really compelled by all the stuff that she was doing. And I feel like a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about, where I feel like the movie does give you the latitude to not just view it as black and white, patriarchal misogyny, I feel like comes from, her performance. I feel like the interiority and the complexity, that some of it's in the character from the script, but a lot of it just comes from the way she plays stuff. I feel like it all works for me better because of the way she's playing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we mentioned the word association scene. All of this is, I mean, like there's more stuff in here. Like he's having a private investigator dig into her past life.
Yeah, there's
Lil tells him about the phone call with mom.
Mm-hmm.
There's all that stuff. But the next kind of big thing is when she goes out hunting with the big group, right?
Yeah, there's also the party where
there's the party.
Strut
Right.
recognizes her, and Mark sort of pressures him into not saying anything about it.
We learn that he's paid off Strut anonymously already, so he like paid the money that she stole back to the company already, and Strut is like kind of still like, yeah, but I still want to, you know, take this lady to court just on principle, you know. And so they have the conversation about like what they're gonna do. She gets all dressed up basically to leave. And I do think Tippi Hedren really rocks this fuzzy black sweater in this scene. Great look for her. He's like, you're dressed like a cat burglar, and I'm like, she looks awesome.
I like the brown hair. One of her disguises, I think when she's employed at, I think it's the disguise that she wears at Rutland's place.
Yeah,
the brown hair looks really good.
Yeah. But yeah, so she is like planning on leaving, and he's basically like, no, like I can figure this out. What we're gonna do is we're gonna have like me pay off everyone that you've stolen from, but I need to know how many. So he's like trying to get more details about her past. And he's like, you know, I can play the distraught husband angle and like come to them and be like, hey, here's the money my wife stole. I'm really sorry. Don't go to the cops or whatever. So he's trying to like figure all that shit out. And it's also funny, by the way. It's another thing that was sticking out to me in that scene is it's funny how like he is so dead set on reforming her criminal behavior, and yet as soon as he like finds out that he has to commit crimes to continue controlling her, suddenly he doesn't care about like the morality of like abiding by law anymore. You know, it just goes to show that it was never about that for him.
Yeah, no, I think he kind of gets off on the fact that she's a criminal.
Yeah, he does. He does. Well, and partially because that's what allows her to be controlled by him, right? Is that's the information that he's lording over her, right?
Right. Another thing that he does is he brings her horse to his estate.
Yes.
Which makes her really happy, and then they go on the fox hunt.
Yes.
You want me to think a character is like an evil, reprehensible piece of shit human being? Depict them going on a fox hunt. Depict them organizing a fox hunt.
Yes. Yeah, the Rutlands apparently just have organized like a huge fucking fox hunt with hundreds of participants.
So many
dogs. There's so many dogs. And so they go on this fox hunt. They Tippi Hedren, Marnie is alarmed by the violence when the dogs catch up with the fox, right?
Yeah, and she also gets triggered by, I think one of the riders has a bright red coat on, and that triggers her. Yeah, so she rides off, and it seems like her plan is just to ride away, just to escape, right? And she's sort of having a panic attack while she's riding her horse away. The horse goes to jump a wall that's a little too high and like hits the wall and breaks its legs. I will say, this scene where she's riding away and Lil is following her on horseback, all of the like the equestrian stunt work here, because a lot of the time we're like seeing horses like jump over fences and streams and stuff. Yeah. And the camera's like way up on like a crane or something. All this stuff I think looks really good and is very exciting. I found this whole sequence like pretty exhilarating. It's like, oh yeah, this guy made North by Northwest. He knows how to shoot action, you know? I like this part of the movie quite a bit. Yeah, the horse crash itself is clearly shot on a soundstage. Yeah, with a dummy horse. According to the ET's research, there was some debate about whether the horse was actually hurt, and I'm like, I don't know, that the shots of that crash are pretty fake looking. Well, I think there was some research, or in the research there was some debate about whether the horse died or not. I don't think the horse was hurt during this very fake stunt. I think the horse might have just been killed. There's the shot where the horse is like writhing on the ground and then they shoot it. I'm like, did they just shoot a horse? But they shoot the horse like off screen. They shoot the horse off screen. You see the gun go off. That's true. But that horse is writhing on the ground. I don't know. Yeah.
It's sad. It's sad when she shoots the horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also very funny when she knocks on this door to this old lady's house and she's like, "Do you have a gun? Give me a gun. I need to borrow a gun to shoot my horse."
Yeah. And the lady's like, "I'm not just going to hand you a gun, random lady." And then Lil shows up and is like, "Give her the gun to shoot the horse." And she's like, "Well, I know you. You're my neighbor from the house down the way. So, all right." Yeah, and she shoots the horse, and it's sad. And it's like the moment of her shooting the horse, I think, is also one of the moments in the movie that I feel like is like a very important moment of storytelling, where it's like she sees this like wounded creature that she has a lot of love and sympathy for. And she's like, "Oh yeah, it's better for you to just be put out of your misery than to stay in this situation where you're suffering."
Yeah.
And that moment sort of sets up an ending for this movie that isn't the actual ending for this movie. This is sort of my biggest problem with Marnie. Until the horse shooting, really until she breaks into the safe, which is pretty much right after the horse shooting. I'm like, I think if this movie goes where I want it to go, it is actually going to pull off a hat trick and become a perfect movie. And then it ends in a different way than what I wanted.
You mean you wanted Marnie to get a machine gun?
I wanted her to take that pistol.
Blow.
I wanted her to take the pistol that she already
You
has.
wanted to turn into Rambo?
That is set up. No, Rambo would kill a bunch of people. I wanted her to kill one person. You know? If she had killed the horse, walked into the house, which she does, gone to the safe, which she does, pulled the money out, right? And then Mark had shown up the way he does and had been trying to talk her down, and she had just grabbed that revolver and put one in through his eyes. End of movie. That would have been immediately 5-star, 10 out of 10, perfect movie masterpiece.
See, first of all, the metaphor of like the wounded animal being put down, that was sort of lost on me last night, but I think that's a very good interpretation. I was just so fucking tired last night while watching this movie, and that may impact my verdict a little bit. But I am sort of like, I'm kind of glad that the movie doesn't end with her shooting Mark, even if I'm not entirely happy with the actual ending of this movie.
I did think the other way that it could have ended that I would have loved is, it would have been sad, but I would have loved this ending, is if she had taken that revolver, gone to the safe, maybe not been able to take the money. They had the confrontation that they have, and then she had turned that revolver on herself.
I thought of that too, but I sort of like that she can't bring herself to steal the money and can't bring herself to shoot him. Mm-hmm. Even if I don't know if the movie entirely did the legwork to get to that point.
I don't know if she can't bring herself to shoot him, because he grabs the gun before she has a chance, and she tries to wrestle it away from him. You know?
Yeah, it's
yeah.
But I was sort of predicting both of those endings that you talked about.
Mm.
I'm kind of glad that the movie doesn't quite go that way, but I'm also like have mixed feelings on the actual ending that we got.
Yeah.
But I think the moment where she tries to steal his money and can't, and then he confronts her about the gun is like a really, really good scene too.
Yeah. I like it. It's a great scene.
And I love how he plays it off as like, he's not aggressive with her, or he's just like, "Hey, can I'm going to take this gun. I'm going to take care of that. We're going to help you out. Mm-hmm. Is everything okay?" He tries to play the caring husband and stuff like that. And It is still very effectively creepy and manipulative.
Yeah. And like, that's the key, right? Is like, he views himself, he feels like everything he's saying is true. He thinks that he's the loving, caring husband who thinks that he's going to like fix his broken wife, right? And so I don't think that's an act from Mark. I think that's how he actually feels. It's just like, in practice, what he's doing is abuse.
And he does dare her to take the money.
Yeah,
like he is testing her.
Yeah, well, and then it gets a little bit more physical than that, and it becomes sort of physically abusive, because he's like grabbing her wrist really hard and like making her like reach for the money, and she like has her other hand trying to pry his hands off of her wrist.
"I've been waiting this whole movie to slap a woman, and now I might finally get the chance.
Finally, I get to lay my hands on a lady in a way that she doesn't like." If she likes the way I'm grabbing her wrist, it doesn't do it for me. Yeah. Yeah, so so then he's like, we're gonna go see your mother, right? And they take off to Baltimore to go see the mom because his private investigator has found Marnie's mom.
Right.
And they show up there, and Marnie's mom initially is basically like, well, first she's like, what the fuck are you doing in my house? There's this thunderstorm going on, so Marnie is kind of having another panic attack basically immediately once they arrive. And she's like, what are you doing in my house? Who the hell are you? And he's like, I'm her husband. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then he's basically like, some shit went down when she was 5. We see a phone call earlier with the private investigator who's filling Mark in on whatever this event was. And what we learn is that like Marnie killed someone when she was 5. That's all we really learn. And that the person that she killed was a man, right? And so that's the information that we as the audience have going into this scene. And yeah, so Mark is like, she has to remember, it'll fix her if I re-traumatize this woman, all of her psychological problems will go away. Right. And the mom is like, I'm not gonna get into this with you, this is fucking disgusting, get out of my house. Right. But then Marnie they start kind of wrestling with each other. Like the Marnie's mom kind of starts like trying to beat him out of the house, and he's like grabbing her wrists. And Marnie sees this, and it triggers something in her where she's like, get away from my mama, in a little child voice.
Yeah.
I do think Tippi Hedren's performance in this movie is great, and it is not her fault that she was written and directed to do baby voice for this part of the movie. I don't think it works. I think as soon as she's like, don't hurt my mama, I'm like, I thought I was watching a better movie than this.
It's sort of like Pamela Voorhees doing the little boy Jason voice at the end of Friday the 13th.
But at least in Friday the 13th, someone gets killed with an arrow through their neck.
In Friday the 13th, we know that we're in Slop Town.
Right. We know that we're in dumb Psycho.
I think this
Psycho for idiots.
I think this whole reveal at the end here is quite weak.
Yeah, I mean, I do and I don't. Yeah, what's your take on it?
So basically she has this flashback that her mom was a sex worker, and in a particular interaction with this man.
Do you know who this man is, by the way?
Oh, is this Bruce Dern?
This is Bruce Dern!
Because I saw him in the credits and I looked for him. I guess I'm not familiar with young Bruce Dern. I'm more familiar with decrepit, old, cantankerous Bruce Dern.
Yeah.
She basically, the sailor is trying to like comfort her, and her mom thinks that he's trying to molest her, and gets into an altercation with him, and then little baby Tippi Hedren kills him with a fire poker, and the blood is what is the explanation for the color red triggering her.
Yeah.
And as I don't know. I don't think it's tough because like if this movie needs to have I don't necessarily need this movie to have an explanation for why Marnie is the way that she is.
Right. I think that's for me also a little bit of a weakness. It's like I can accept that this woman does not want to be controlled by men.
Yeah.
And not have that come from a place of childhood trauma.
Yeah, like
right?
I'm okay with the setup of like, oh yeah, she's trying to raise money for her mom, but her mom has never loved her really, and so she's chosen to manipulate men and steal from them. Like that's fine. That's all I need. We don't need the fucking color red trigger in there at all. We don't need that. But if the movie's gonna have an explanation for why Marnie is the way that she is, I just need a few more bits of connective tissue to make this scene work, because it does just sort of feel like it comes out of nowhere and doesn't work as like a sufficient explanation for why the way she is the way that she is.
The thing that does really work for me in this scene is it's an incredibly upsetting thing in the movie and also to talk about. But when this adult sailor tries to molest a child, it makes a lot of sense why she doesn't want to be touched. Because there's the whole moment where he's like, oh, don't worry, the captain's here. Let me give you a little kiss. And he's like grabbing her and kissing her face. And then like in the present, as she's remembering this, she was like, he tried to like touch me, right? And it is a very clear moment of like, oh yeah, like this guy was like gonna molest her. And that has a lot to do with how she views sexuality and sex and men, right? And I'm like, that sort of works for me in this scene. And it goes I think it goes to a dark enough place that it matches some of the darkness earlier in the movie in a way that I find pretty satisfying, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, like this is a movie about like fucked up people doing fucked up shit to each other. Mostly Mark doing fucked up shit to Marnie, right? And then it's like we see from this flashback how Marnie has been victimized in the past and how like her past trauma has led her to make the decisions that she made that put her in a position where she would be prey for a man like Mark. Right? It's like the previous violence that was done against her leads her to become a person that a creep like this will gravitate towards and attempt to control, right? A lot of the time that's how it goes. Like people who are victimized are re-victimized not because of anything they're doing wrong, but because their victimization forces them into circumstances where they can be easily re-victimized. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just like a weak Hitchcock ending. It feels like it's trying a little bit too hard to tie up every loose end and explain every aspect of this woman's, you know, her psychosis or her neuroses or whatever you want to have, and it's doing it from a very skewed 60s perspective. I don't think it's bad. Like it could be a lot worse. It just kind of makes the ending feel a little deflated to me. Yeah. And the thing that also kind of deflates this ending for me is that after she has this flashback and everything's sort of laid bare, she asks Mark to help her, and it's kind of supposed to leave you with this feeling of unease, but I don't think I really felt that. Like I recognized that how I was supposed to feel, but it feels like it's a little bit too much of like a triumphant ending that's trying to redeem Mark.
This is the thing I don't like about the ending, right? Is like after she like relives this traumatic memory, like her and her mom make up, and I like her and her mom making up. That really works for me. I like the moment between the two women where she's like, oh, like, because the mom reveals that she took the fall for the murder, right? She to protect Marnie. She was basically like, yeah, I said that I killed him, and I said I did it in self-defense, right? And Marnie's like, oh, so you did love me. You do love me, right? And her mom's like, yeah, right? It's like just they experienced this fucked up thing together, and it complicated their relationship. But it's like there is love there, right? And that moment I really like. And then fucking Mark has to like come in here and be like, okay, now that you've reconciled with your mother, I'm here to take you away to my rich man house. And I feel like the movie does leave it a little open for you to feel like this isn't a happy ending, while also kind of leaning its hand on the scale and being like, no, it's a good thing that this fucking misogynist rapist pig is taking care of this woman now.
It's a little too ambiguous, and I'm okay with ambiguity, but I wish that it leaned a little bit heavier into the sinister implications.
A bad
of this.
ending. Yeah.
And again, like to bring up Gone Girl again, the ending of Gone Girl, where it's basically like now where they're going to continue this relationship based on this foundation of distrust, and it's just we're just going to sort of leave it in the air.
Mhm.
You feel the sinister overtones of that ending a lot more than this.
And also, in the Gone Girl ending, it's like, even if they do stay together, like, they sort of deserve each other, kind of. Because they've both done things to each other that are about equally bad. Whereas in this movie, it's like, if they stay together, that's bad for Marnie. Because Marnie has done a few bad things to Mark, and Mark has been a monster to her. So it doesn't feel like the power is imbalanced, in the way that it's not in, like, Gone Girl, right?
Sure.
But the line that I do like at the ending is when Marnie is saying that she's going to go with him. She says, "I'd rather be with you than in jail," which feels very pointed to me, where she's still not saying, "Oh, I love you, Mark. Like, yes, I'm reformed. You fixed my brain. Let's go have a happy marriage." The way she says it is still like, this is better than the alternative, which is prison. I would rather be in your gilded prison than in an actual prison, right? And so that's the one line at the end where I was kind of like, okay, that's a little scrap for me to hold on to with this ending and feel like the movie kind of understands my viewing of it. But I do agree. I wish that it had gone more. I wish that it had been more clear that this is not a good ending for Marnie. Like, this is like, this has not fixed her. This has not solved her problems. If anything, she's like more trapped now than ever.
Right.
Because she doesn't even have her secrets anymore.
Yeah, I really wish it hammered that home a little bit more.
Me too. Kind of a big knock against this movie for me that it doesn't.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay, so that's Marnie.
Yeah.
Justice. Oh, so sorry.
Back to hell with you.
I felt him leaking through for a second.
The power of Christ compels you, Mr. Connery.
God can't stop me. Neither can you. Oh God. Oh, fuck.
Get him out of here. I don't want to hear his take on this movie.
It's like a little tingle in the back of my head. I feel it all the time. She's just back there, just behind the eyes.
Yeah. Demons apparently live behind the eyes, or the spirits of people who are in hell. But as we established during Shaky Cam summer camp, ghosts are in the balls.
Justice is Marnie, the greatest movie ever made.
David. Very complicated feelings about the film Marnie for me. I liked an awful lot of what this movie was doing. We didn't even talk about it, but I will talk about it now in my verdict. This movie looks gorgeous. Duh, because it's an Alfred Hitchcock film. One of my favorite backdrops of all time is in the establishing shot of Marnie's neighborhood, her mom's house in Baltimore.
Oh yeah.
Her mom's house is like down by the docks, and there is this gorgeous painted backdrop of this ship in the harbor, like right behind this like dockside neighborhood, and like it's like it's painted at like sunset or like golden hour, so like the lighting on the back, the light on the backdrop is really cool.
I watched this in a lower quality version on archive.org, and I saw that, and I was like, I bet that backdrop looks really, really good in HD, but right now, it's a little hard to figure out what's going on.
On my standard definition DVD, it looked phenomenal. It looks incredible. And so much of the movie, like that backdrop is just the peak example for me, but so much of this movie looks gorgeous. And just great set design, great production design. Everything is like so well lit and so well shot. It is, of course, an Alfred Hitchcock production, so all of that stuff is pretty much given. The use of color in this is also, I think, very strong. There is, of course, the like red stuff, which is maybe a little like Alfred Hitchcock paint by numbers, but I think a lot of the other color stuff in this movie works really well for me. I really like in the scene where Lil is chasing Marnie on horseback. Marnie's horse is kind of like dark, like almost black, and Lil's is like bright white. And the crane shots of them riding through the field is just very visually stunning. The contrast is incredible. Good, well-made movie that I enjoyed viewing with my eyeballs aesthetically. Thematically, as we have talked about in detail, a little troubling. This is a movie that, like, you don't feel good watching Marnie. You feel pretty gross and weird and bad watching Marnie. And I certainly felt gross and weird and bad watching Marnie. And I don't mind that. Sometimes I like feeling gross and weird and bad watching a movie. But then, like, if it doesn't stick the landing to hammer home that you have been feeling right about feeling gross and weird and bad, it kind of leaves you feeling a little incomplete. And that's sort of how I ended up feeling with Marnie. Incomplete's a great word, because as I was thinking about my verdict for this episode, I was like, I'm not going to introduce a third option, but were I want to do so, I would say rather than a yes or a no, I'm giving Marnie an incomplete.
We already have a third option, which is worse.
Well, I could do the fourth option then.
Would be incomplete.
Right, would be incomplete. Like, I have to view this again, or this movie has to get a different ending before I can rate it correctly, right? And I'm not going to do that. But that's sort of how I ended up, like, leaving this movie feeling, is it's like, I feel like the movie set me up with all of these feelings about its themes and its tone and its characters and its story, and then it didn't give me a resolution that I can use to make those feelings make easy sense. I'm going to have to just, like, pick at this tangled ball of feelings this movie gave me. And, like, that's fine. Movies are allowed to do that. I would have preferred a resolution that had been a little more satisfying for all the stuff that it gave me to think about. So no, Marnie is not the greatest movie ever made. I think it's worth watching. Just keep in mind, it has the potential to be incredibly triggering. Depending on your life experience. David, is Marnie the greatest movie ever made?
Justice. I'm going to give it an incomplete.
What the fuck?
Which means it's a no.
Okay, yeah.
No, Marnie's not the greatest movie ever made. A couple things sort of coloring my experience with this movie. Obviously, I have other things on my mind right now in regards to my personal life, and sitting down and watching a 2 hour and 10-minute Hitchcock movie about sexual assault and manipulative relationships was maybe not the best way to cope with the things that are going on in my life right now.
Well, we only have the ghost of Sean Connery to blame for that.
Yeah. And I also watched a slightly lower quality version of this that I think was just a VHS rip that did not look all that stunning, even though I could clearly recognize a lot of Hitchcock's craft in this. And that's sort of the thing with this movie, is that I can recognize and appreciate Hitchcock's craft is still very much intact in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like his ability to captivate an audience and surprise an audience and shock an audience and explore the darker side of humanity through these characters has lost a little bit of its luster at this point in his career. And thematically, I think this movie brings up a lot of really interesting issues and explores them very well. But there's other moments where it just kind of fumbles the bag and leads to a less satisfying thriller than what I've come to expect from Alfred Hitchcock at this point. That being said, I think Sean Connery is fantastic in this movie.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And even if the script occasionally fails his character and his theming, I think his performance is strong throughout this thing. I also think Tippi Hedren's really good too. It took me a while to warm up to her, but I think once she gets the chance to play more of Marnie's complexities at the end of this movie, the second half of this movie, she's really fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
And it has several scenes that I think are still just really well done, well constructed moments of tension from Hitchcock. But it is maybe one of his lesser films for me at this viewing, which is still to say, like, probably better than most movies of this era,
mm-hmm.
but one that I would have to sit on and revisit eventually. Also, I mentioned this earlier in my verdict, and we haven't really talked about it. It's 2 hours and 10 minutes, which is one of Hitchcock's longest movies,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of think we could have lost a little bit of that runtime, especially with how well-paced a lot of his other movies are, like North by Northwest and Vertigo and Rope just like fly by.
Yeah, I feel that a little bit too, yeah.
I think we could have lost a little bit from this one.
Yeah.
So no, Marnie's not the greatest movie ever made.
I did want to bring up one more thing before we sign off and lay Marnie to rest. It's obviously, as is the format of the show, it's been two white men talking about a lot of issues that primarily affect women on this episode. And I did want to ever so briefly bring in a woman's thoughts on this movie because after I finished this movie, I was, as I am wont to do, looking at Letterboxd reviews, and I saw that a film critic who I am a fan of, Angelica Jade Bastien, has a great review about this movie, and I just wanted to say some of the things that she wrote in her review on mic, because I think it's it was a helpful perspective for me after viewing this movie.
Okay.
It helped me in processing it to sort of see what a woman whose film writing I greatly respect had to say about it. So some of the things that she said that I liked is, for the men in this film, primarily and especially Connery's ultra-rich, controlling, violent, lustful mark, woman is danger, intrigue, sin. And I say woman because the women in the film aren't people so much as archetypes, different faces of the same beast that these men have conjured in their minds. Women are more intriguing than misogynist projections would have people believe. And she ends the review by saying, ultimately, a feral fucking film that operates as a window into how men imagine female madness, which I think is very interesting. And that review helped me shape some of my thoughts that I expressed on mic about how I kind of think this is like a movie where Hitchcock is sort of meta commentating on his own feelings about women without changing how he feels about women,
Yeah. I think that's I think that also gives me some perspective on my thoughts on the movie too.
Yeah.
Next week,
check out Angelica Jade Bastien, by the way. She writes for Vulture.
Yeah,
she's great.
Next week, we're going to be talking about John Borman's psychedelic science fiction movie. I don't know anything about it. Zardoz.
That's probably the most fun title that was picked for this month to say in a Sean Connery accent.
Yeah.
Zardoz.
It's the one where he wears a red or a bright orange bikini or some shit.
Yes.
And has a long ponytail.
Yes.
And I've seen that image on the internet for a long time.
And there's a big head.
There's a big floating head.
There's a big floating head in the sky.
And maybe sex is outlawed.
I think
in that
sex
universe.
is illegal, which sex should be illegal for
for Sean Connery.
For Sean Connery, or specifically his character in Marnie. Yes. So, we'll see what Zardoz is all about next week.
Join us next week as the Shummer of Sean continues. In the meantime, please leave us a review or leave us a comment wherever you listen to the show. Tell your friends about the show and continue to spread the word. And
thank you, ET, for the research.
Thanks, ET, for the research. If you, we have a TikTok now, so follow us on TikTok. ET's putting together clips of the show on there.
Yep.
And, do all that stuff.
That's right.
Sorry, my brain is fried.
That's okay. You are thinking about a lot of stuff right now.
Right now, I'm thinking about getting some In-N-Out.
That's right.
Thinking about hamburger.
All right. Well, let's let these good people go so you can get a hamburger.
Yes. We love you so much. And until next time.
Later, dipshits. We hope you enjoyed this episode of The Greatest Movie Ever Made. Please remember to leave us a rating and a review, and to subscribe to the show wherever you listen. We appreciate you supporting the show and spreading the word. Tell your friends to listen, tell your enemies to listen, tell your mom to listen. If your neighbor has an unsecured Bluetooth speaker, connect to it and play an episode. You can follow us on social media at TGMEM_podcast. And if you've got a movie that you want us to talk about, send us an email at thegreatestmoviepodcast@gmail.com.